The world's most honored watch is Longines. Longines watches have won 10 World's Fair grand prizes, 28 gold medals, and more honors for accuracy than any other timepiece. Longines, the world's most honored watch, is made and guaranteed by the Longines Whitnall Watch Company.
It's time for the Longines Chronoscope, a television journal of the important issues of the hour, brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A presentation of the Longines Whitnall Watch Company, maker of Longines, the world's most honored watch, and Whitnall, distinguished companion to the world-honored Longines. Good evening. This is Frank Knight. May I introduce our co-editors for this edition of the Longines Chronoscope? Mr. William Bradford Huey, editor of the American Mercury, and Mr. Elliot Haynes, an editor of United Nations World. Our distinguished guest for this evening is His Excellency Dr. Ali Sastroamidjojo, Indonesian ambassador to the United States. The opinions expressed are necessarily those of the speakers.
Mr. Ambassador, I'm sure that our audience is very glad to see you on our show tonight because you represent the newest nation in the world, and a very large and rich nation. Now, sir, will you tell us just something about the Republic of Indonesia? Give us a brief geographic description of your nation.
Well, thank you for the words of welcome. Indonesia, as you know, is a new country, and its geographic location is, I might say, a very
it's an island. It's an island nation, isn't it?
And it is situated in the Southwest Pacific, and is just located on the crossroad of two very important highways. One from the mainland of Asia, leading to Australia, and the other one is from the north, leading from China, from Japan to the south.
And it's an island kingdom. There are many islands, aren't there?
There are many islands. We have approximately 3,000 islands over there.
It's an extremely rich country in terms of natural resources.
Yes, it is. I think it ranks the third behind the United States and Russia.
And how many people do you have, sir?
We have approximately 78 million.
How many of those are literate, Mr. Ambassador?
Oh, about 20%.
20% can read.
Yes.
And they're mainly Muslims, aren't they?
Well, yes, most of them, about 85% are Muslims.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any Christians there?
We have, and the government we have cabinet ministers who are Christians.
And of course you were formerly a colony of the Dutch, weren't you?
We were, yes.
You were developed industrially. What industrial development you have was largely the work of the Dutch, wasn't it?
Yes.
But there wasn't much industrial development under the Dutch, was there?
No, there were not. But most of the industry is mostly agricultural industry, sugar, you know, and tea and coffee.
Were you in a very strong position economically when the Dutch left?
No, I should say not.
Why was that?
Well, that is, I think, because of work conditions
and you attained your independence from the Dutch immediately after the Second World War, didn't you?
Not immediately. We proclaimed our independence in 1945.
And it was finally granted 2 or 3 years ago?
In 1949, actually, we concluded the so-called Round Table Conference in The Hague.
And you are now a completely free and independent nation of 80 million people on these very rich islands.
Yes.
Now, sir, tonight our people are particularly interested in the relations between our two governments. We Americans are wondering who are our friends and who aren't. Now, is your nation friendly to America now and to Americans?
Yes. We have the most friendly relations with your government.
Governor Dewey, after his return from Indonesia on a recent trip, stated that the Indonesians, by and large, did not want to have too much to do with Westerners, including Americans.
I think that is not correct.
You don't believe that's true?
I don't believe that is true.
Now, where do you stand in our great struggle with the Soviet Union today? Are you on the side of the West, or are you on the side of the Russian power complex?
We are not aligning ourselves with either of the controversial camps.
Is it fair to call you neutralist in the great struggle between the West and the East?
Let me put it this way. We have formulated our foreign policy as an independent foreign policy, but it does not mean that we have a neutral policy. We claim that our foreign policy is an independent one, but it is an active independent
Most of
foreign
our
policy.
listeners are familiar with the positions taken by Nehru of India. Now, would you say that the position of your nation in the struggle between Russia and America, is the position of your nation approximately that position taken by Mr. Nehru?
Yes, approximately similar to that.
What would the position of your country be, Mr. Ambassador, if China should move aggressively south, say in the Malaya?
You mean Red China?
Red China, yes. Or Burma.
That is difficult to say now. And of course, we are aware of the changes, eventual changes of that kind.
Has your government recognized the government of Red China?
Yes, we have recognized.
And you've also pressed for admission of Red China into the United Nations.
That is
haven't you?
right. Yes.
What is your position there? Why do you press for that?
Our position is that Indonesia believes that Red China, which we recognize, should participate in the normal way of international intercourse through the United Nations.
And do you think that if they did participate in that manner, that the Cold War would ease off at all?
Yes, we believe that.
You do believe that?
Mr. Ambassador, recently, Mr. Bullitt, former ambassador to the Soviet Union, told our audience that today in India he doesn't believe that either American capital or American technicians are welcome. Now, is American capital welcomed in Indonesia today?
Well, I do not know very much about India, but as far as Indonesia is concerned, I would like to answer that as
you think that the American capitalist, the American with some savings, can invest it in Indonesia with complete safety today?
Yes, I think so.
Is there very much investment going on from America into Indonesia?
Not yet very much.
Mm-hmm. Recently, the cabinet of Indonesia fell and was replaced by a new one because...
Not yet now.
Well, pardon?
Not yet replaced up till now.
Oh, that hasn't been replaced yet. But it fell because that cabinet seemed to be about to sign an agreement with the American government to administer some technical assistance and so forth. Would you say that that was a move away from cooperation with the United States?
I don't believe that is the right position that way, because we have, I think, to wait until a new cabinet has been formed.
Well, but immediately after that, during the 6th session of the General Assembly in Paris, it seemed to many observers as if Indonesia was being more negative in regard to America than it had been before that.
Well, chronologically, I think it is not quite correct in stating that, because the cabinet fell after the session in Paris.
Now, Mr. Ambassador,
that is not a consequence, or that is not a result of the...
Well, the two were linked, I thought, though.
I don't think
you don't think so?
No.
One of the things that our audience is always interested about from our friends and foreign nations is what do you want from us? Now, are you borrowing money from the United States now?
Well, we have got $100 million loan from the Export-Import Bank to help bolstering up our economy.
You've borrowed $100 million now from the Export-Import Bank, and that's to bolster your economy,
yes,
to bolster your currency, I assume.
Well, of course, that is in connection with our economy. Currency is not to be separated from the economy. That is, yes, I think, a part of it.
And of course, you are a great, rich country yourself now.
Yes.
Now, what can we Americans expect in return from Indonesia for our loans that have already been made, and perhaps additional loans?
Well, I think that your interest in Indonesia is to see that in Indonesia, as an independent free country, and should be kept strong enough to manage its own affairs as a sovereign country.
I see. Well, now, are you a possible ally of ours in any difficulties that we might have in the future?
Well, I stated before that we are in very friendly terms with you.
But not in a military or alliance sense.
No.
I wonder if I could switch the topic for a minute and ask you about Japan. Apparently, Japan needs markets and can't turn to Red China for them. Do you think that Japan could keep her economy going with trade in Southeast Asia?
Well, I think for a great deal, Japan has always been dealing with Indonesia as far as Indonesia is concerned.
But do you think it could keep its economy going by trade with Indonesia and other
without
trade with China?
No. Well, I don't know, but I think it has been an historical fact that Japan has always have
Mr. Ambassador, as a
commercial intercourse with China.
As a final question, sir, we in America, many of our young people are interested in nations where there's hope, where there's development. We're once a young country ourselves. Now, is Indonesia a hopeful nation today for young men, for your young men and the other young men of the world?
Well, I think Indonesia is a young country.
I see.
And managed by young men.
Well, thank you very much for being with us tonight, sir. Very kind of you to be with us.
The editorial board for this edition of the Longines Chronoscope was Mr. Elliot Haynes and Mr. William Bradford Huey. Our distinguished guest was His Excellency Dr. Ali Sastroamidjojo, Indonesian Ambassador to the United States.